The towering glass walls of Carrington Global reflected the morning sun like cold steel. Inside, the hallways were pristine, silent, just the way Michael Carrington liked them. At 6:45 a.m. sharp, the CEO arrived at his corner office, his designer shoes echoing with precision on the polished floor. He was known for two things: brilliance and zero tolerance. But today, irritation simmered beneath his perfectly tailored suit. A mop bucket sat unattended by the elevator, with a damp floor sign propped awkwardly beside it. He scowled. Sloppiness. Unacceptable. Get facilities on the line, he snapped to his assistant, barely pausing as he pushed open his office door. This is the third time this week I've seen this mess. Fire her, Maria something. I don't care if she's been here 10 years. Before the call could connect, a soft voice interrupted him. Please don't fire my mommy. Startled, Michael turned. A little girl stood near the cleaning cart, clutching a small teddy bear, her curly hair in disarray. She looked up at him with wide, tired eyes. She couldn't have been older than 8. She didn't mean to be late, the girl said quietly. I was sick last night. She stayed with me till I fell asleep. We don't have anyone else. Michael stared, stunned. No one had ever interrupted him like that before, especially not a child. The sharp reply on his tongue faded. For a moment, the powerful CEO didn't see a mess, he saw a mother doing her best to hold the world together. Michael stood frozen, the child's words lingering in the air like a whisper he couldn't ignore. Her small voice had cut through the armor he wore every day, an armor built from boardrooms, contracts, and cold efficiency. The little girl took a cautious step forward, her tiny fingers clutching the hem of her oversized pajama shirt. Her teddy bear dangled from one hand, a patch sewn where the stuffing had once escaped. She didn't want to bring me, the girl said, her voice barely above a breath. But she couldn't leave me alone. I had a fever, and our neighbor moved away last month. Michael's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. The girl looked up at him, not with fear, but with something purer, honesty. She always tells me, the girl continued, that even when people don't notice, you should still do your job with love. She says, even floors deserve to shine. Those words hit Michael in a way he didn't expect. Even floors deserve to shine. A phrase so simple, yet filled with more dignity than half the board meetings he'd ever sat through. The hallway was silent. Somewhere behind them, a vacuum hummed distantly, but the moment felt still, untouched. Michael lowered his gaze. He was a man who commanded empires, yet somehow, he found himself humbled by the quiet wisdom of a child in pajamas. What's your name? He asked softly. Lena, she replied. And for the first time in years, Michael felt something shift inside him. Later that morning, the office buzzed as usual, assistants hustling, emails flying, deals pending, but Michael Carrington sat quietly at his desk, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows. His mind wasn't on the merger or the market. It was still on the little girl's voice. Her words echoed, almost hauntingly, even floors deserve to shine. Something about them had unraveled a thread he didn't know still existed inside him. Needing a distraction, he reached into the bottom drawer of his desk for a pen, and his hand brushed something unexpected. A thin, weathered photo, buried under years of documents. He pulled it out slowly. It was a picture of his mother. She stood in front of the elementary school he once attended, mop in hand, smiling despite the exhaustion in her eyes. He remembered how she'd clean classrooms at night after her waitressing shift, how she'd tell him, dignity isn't about money, Mikey. It's about doing your best, even when no one's watching. He had forgotten. Forgotten the long bus rides she took, the shoes she resold over and over, the quiet pride in her voice when she said she was just a cleaner. Somewhere along the way, he'd buried those memories beneath ambition and status. Now, with Lena's words ringing in his ears, the photo felt like a mirror. he wasn't looking at a cleaner. He was looking at the strongest woman he'd ever known, and suddenly, he saw Maria in her place. His chest tightened. Maybe this wasn't just about one job. Maybe it was about who he had become. That evening, long after the offices had emptied and the city lights blinked across the skyline, Maria pushed her cleaning cart down the quiet hallway. Her body ached, but she moved with quiet determination, as she always did. She had no idea what had happened that morning between her daughter and the CEO, only that Lena had looked at her differently all day, as if holding on to a secret. When she reached the staff locker room, something caught her eye. Taped to her locker was a white envelope with her name written in careful, elegant handwriting. Confused, she opened it. Inside was a typed letter. Maria. Today, your daughter reminded me of something I had forgotten, that real strength is quiet, selfless, and often unseen. Your work, your devotion, your love, it matters more than I ever understood. Thank you for doing what you do with such care. You don't just clean these halls. You dignify them. Michael Carrington. Her hands trembled. Tucked behind the note was a check, an entire year's salary, paid in full. Maria gasped, pressing the paper to her chest as tears filled her eyes. Lena peeked around the corner, having followed her mother from a distance. Is it good news? She asked, eyes wide. Maria dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into a hug. Yes, mi amor, she whispered, her voice cracking. Very good. In that moment, surrounded by fluorescent lights and bleach-scented air, a tired mother and her daughter held something rare, proof that goodness, even when unseen, can change the world. 2 weeks later, the executive conference room looked different. Gone were the stiff, rehearsed energy and guarded expressions. Instead, a quiet curiosity filled the space as employees gathered for a company-wide meeting, the kind where only big changes were announced. Michael Carrington stood at the front, but something about him had shifted. His sharp suit was the same, yet the hardness in his eyes had softened. For the first time in years, he looked not just like a leader, but like a man who had been humbled. I used to believe success was built in boardrooms, he began, voice calm, steady. But I was wrong. It's built in silence, in sacrifice, in the quiet work that holds everything up. He paused, scanning the room. In the back row sat Maria, holding Lena in her lap. A few staff recognized her. Most didn't. But she looked radiant, tears welling as Michael continued. Starting today, Carrington Global is launching a new program. Full scholarships for the children of all our support staff, cleaners, cafeteria workers, security guards. The people whose names we should have learned long ago. A murmur of surprise swept the room. Applause slowly rose. Michael looked directly at Lena, who beamed at him shyly from the crowd. She reminded me, he said, that even floors deserve to shine. And so do the people who walk them. The room stood in ovation. As Maria hugged her daughter tight, Michael knew this wasn't charity, it was justice. And for the first time in his career, he felt truly successful.